Josephine, let's put a timestamp on today. How far are you into filming, and what exactly did you guys film today? And I want to note this is going to be embargoed, so like feel free to discuss openly like what you're going to be. Yes.
We're about 3 weeks into shooting with a 5-week schedule. And today we were doing all the Seattle hotel stuff. So it's when Tessa's on her first day of an internship at a publishing company, and she goes all the way, she's whisked off to Seattle, and she's taken out to a club, and events ensue.
Yeah. So what was the last scene you shot in After, and then what was the first scene you shot in After We Collided, to give us some perspective?
I don't know whether officially this was the last scene we shot, but the last scene we shot was the aquarium sequence of the montage.
Oh, so cute.
And the first scene that I shot in After We Collided was me standing behind a curtain reacting to something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan of the books. I've read all the books. I know you have as well. Have you read all of them? Or okay. So obviously, like, it's kind of more of an R rating in the books. The first film was rated PG-13. We have an R rating the second time around. Has it been tonally different on set for you now that you have an R rating in the sequel?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is because of our director, Roger Campbell. There's a lot more humor in this film, there's a lot more intensity in this film, there's swearing, because we're allowed to swear now, because it's R-rated, so there's definitely been a tonal shift, and I think everyone's felt that.
Obviously, after like the major worldwide success, you guys winning your 3 Teen Choice Awards, what was the reunion like for you and Hero when you got back on set for After We Collided?
I'm trying to remember what we actually, when the first time, I can't remember if it was at the hotel or if it was at like rehearsals, but it was it was basically, hi, how you doing? It was nothing dramatic with flowers and
You're right.
And I haven't seen you out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, it wasn't dramatic, we're just like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
So obviously with the emotional events that ended in the first movie, Tessa's in a super like deeply emotional state for this sequel. So I'm wondering, like, when you and Hero are doing some of those particularly emotional scenes, when Roger yells cut, do you like immediately go back into Josephine, or do you have to like take a bit to kind of like do the downtime?
Honestly, we haven't gotten into a lot of the super emotional stuff in this film yet. So we've been lucky in that respect, but the stuff we've done so far, it's not, I don't really require like that much of a transition period. It sort of depends. Sometimes you want to stay in it if it's a really emotional scene and you're shooting it over like 12 hours, but if it's only sort of emotional when you're doing it over 2 hours. So yeah, it's not hard to answer your question, it's not hard to like snap back and forth. Yeah.
Right. Well, Tessa's last question. Tessa's obviously like, she thinks she knows what she wants in life until she meets Hardin. And I'm just wondering, like, is there something about Tessa that maybe you like took with you after the filming of the first movie? Is something about her that like sticks with you?
I thought you were going to say physically. Like,
oh yeah. Did you? No. I don't know if you've already been asked that.
What have I taken from her? I think
like anything from maybe like Hardin's room or something, or like maybe like a wardrobe piece or something that you took?
There was a really gorgeous green slip dress that she was going to wear.
I was like, I don't remember that in the movie.
No, because she was going to wear it for one of the scenes, the wedding scenes, and it was tailor made and it was like custom fit to me, and they didn't end up using it.
They used another dress.
So I got to steal that.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I think that's the only. I mean, emotionally, what have I taken?
Yeah,
that's
like
probably a bit more interesting answer. Just maybe like her sense of confidence. I don't know. I think that's a good lesson for everyone to take. Just be who you are and don't be afraid to be yourself and make choices and.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. You go. I won't know that you're like, I'm so exhausted. I'm gonna get back to my like trailer and chill for the rest of the day. I'm gonna get a glass of wine myself.
I'm just so sorry we only had 4 minutes.
No, it's fine. I'm happy that you like gave me any time at all. Like, so because I know you've had like such a long day, so I really appreciate it. Yeah. No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was cool to interview you in your club dress. So give me a timestamp. Where are you guys today in filming? What are you going to be filming today while you're here?
I think we might be bang on halfway through. Like I think we are exactly halfway through. We're filming stuff to do with basically the first scene in which Hardin and Tessa actually see each other in the second film when Tessa's away on a trip with Vance Publishing on like a work trip.
Okay, so I mean, when it was announced that Roger Kumble was directing this one, Cruel Intentions is legit my favorite movie of all time.
No way.
I know everyone says that, but I'm like, no, like it is my favorite movie. So I was curious, did you pull any? I don't know if you've seen the movie, but have you seen the movie?
I saw the movie.
Okay.
I obviously knew a lot about it, and I saw it after I realized he was directing.
Like, do you feel like similarities between Sebastian and like Hardin at all? Or
I can see how they obviously are.
Yeah.
But I didn't obviously base anything off it or take anything away. But 100% there are similarities between those characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first film was used a lot in reference when we were shooting the first one. Sorry, Cruel Intentions was.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was obviously very fitting to have him here for the second, with Selma as well.
Yeah. So I'm always fascinated about the makeup process an actor has to do going into filming.
Yeah.
Can you talk about like the tattoos and how long it takes to apply them? Do you get to like leave set wearing them, or do they have to be reapplied fresh every day before filming?
So now that I think of it, probably would be, if we wanted to be extra safe, I should take them off all before I go, so that no one could ever see them.
Right.
But to be honest, by the time we finish set, we just go straight back to bed anyway. There's not a lot of time to do anything. But the whole process is more about maintenance than application. Once you put them on, it takes like an hour or two. But pick up lint and they like rub away. And if you're doing a scene where there's a lot of running around or fight scene or something, they're going to come off more. So it can vary a lot, but it's a lot of time we spend doing that.
Right. So I read that you didn't necessarily read the books. Is that true?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Okay, so I was curious, when you were reading the first script for the first film, were you just surprised at the ending, what Hardin does when when the script was given to you?
Yeah, obviously all great scripts are going to be full of surprises.
Yeah.
And also there were talks about, because with the book there's so much that goes on, you can kind of pick what bits you have to pick, what bits get in and what don't, and there's a lot of room to play. So we were always kind of aware of the ending, us being able to slightly change it as the days went, and when you're shooting, everything's different. So yeah, we had a number of slightly different endings and stuff, but I think we picked the right one.
Yes, because obviously in the movie it expands further than the book. So obviously with the events ending of the first movie, Tessa and Hardin are in this extremely emotional place. I'm just curious, when you're filming with Josephine and after those especially like intense scenes, when Roger yells cut, do you have to like take a moment to like get back into yourself, or like how do you like, what's your downtime like after those emotional scenes?
Obviously the emotional scenes are more so like this, take more getting, if you're on a wide shot just walking, you don't, it's not as much as intense and as much of a process. But I would say it's way more about before. After, it's like a second or two and you're listening to direction and you're you again. For me anyway, it's obviously different for everyone.
Yeah.
But it's more beforehand, it's before you start shooting that you need to get into character, and then coming back into yourself is probably more seamless.
Right. So after like the major success of the first film and like winning 3 Teen Choice Awards, which was like pretty massive, I don't know if that was like a surprise to you guys, but all the fans were like, yes!
That one I cannot thank the fans enough for, because that is obviously just
amazing.
So, yeah, incredible. It's like, we really owe it to them. That's just all them. That award is to them.
You have some massive hardcore fans out there, man.
We're lucky.
Yeah, so what was like the reunion like between you and Josephine coming back to the sequel after like the success of the first one and like, Teen Choice and everything?
I think obviously like me, Anna and Joe were promoting a lot in between, and then went back about our lives and come back again, and I felt with the same crew, same location, same everything, we come back and it's just like round 2, ready to go again, and this time it's just quicker and easier because we all know each other already.
Sure, yeah.
But obviously we were all happy to be back and do it again.
Obviously Wuthering Heights is an important book for Tessa and Hardin. What's that one book that's super important to you?
I really don't, and I should have a book like that, but I don't really have a specific favorite. I remember reading Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime when I was young. I remember my dad read it to me and then I reread it later. And that was really interesting to me, but I don't know why I've never like attached to reading. I grow older and I literally said to Candice, who plays Kimberly, we were talking about a good book to just get back into reading one. And she said she hadn't for a while and read The Alchemist.
Oh.
And said that really got her back into reading. So I'm gonna give that a go.
Yeah, I recently just read this book called Where the Crawdads Sing. It was like on Reese Witherspoon's book club, and it was so good. I think she's like co-producing the movie. I wasn't a big reader, and like I read that, then I read the after books, and then that would be a good one.
Yeah,
it's like a good thriller, kind of like Gone Girl. I don't know
Yeah,
if that's your thing.
yeah. No, exactly. We were specifically talking about thrillers being the kind of book I'd want to.
Then maybe you'd like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give it a go.
All right. Well, thank you. This was
Thank you so
awesome.
much.
Well, congrats on being Trevor.
Thank you.
This is amazing. So give us a timestamp today and where you are in filming and what you've been filming today. Because this obviously, just want to say this is all going to be embargoed closer to the film's release date.
Well, I'm almost done filming, actually.
Okay.
We've almost shot all of Trevor's scenes. I have about 3 days left to go. The scene that we're shooting is going to be taking place before we go to the club. Tessa and I go to the club. And it's kind of the first interaction you see where they're loosening up with each other and getting to know each other. And I think it's also the moment where the audience will see him as more of a potential love interest for her. So it's an exciting moment.
So yeah, I saw that one of the producers, Jen, confirmed on Instagram that Trevor's kind of going to be more of a larger role in After We Collide to the movie versus as he was in the books. Can you like expand a little bit more on that?
Well, yeah, I think that, upon reading the books, I think that if you boiled Trevor down, he represents a lot of values and mannerisms that are kind of the opposite of Hardin, right? And I think that that's what they were particularly interested in, making him more of a character in that way.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of been the way that we've been doing it. I've talked to Anna at great length about how to retain the character perfectly while also adding some of my own spin into it, obviously, as an actor. And I think that we've hit a really good stride.
I'm excited for more Trevor now that you're in the film.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what's in store for the fans and everybody. So I guess walk me through the process of being cast as Trevor. Like, so did you read the books? It sounds like you...
I did not.
You did not read the books.
I did not read the books. I play a lot of video games. It takes up a lot of my time.
Ooh, okay, so that's priority.
Yeah.
But you obviously had the conversations with Anna about
Yes.
like what you wanted to do for Trevor, especially with the love triangle angle.
Of course. I mean, in terms of Trevor, like you've noted, he wasn't such a large part of the books. So Anna and I went through his character extensively, right? Without getting into bigger details, we went through. And that I found was more helpful to me as it was able to refine, I think, who he was.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we've just been kind of diving into that. But no, I have not read the books yet.
Okay, so Wuthering Heights is obviously an important book for Hardin and
Yes.
Tessa. What's that one book for you that's really important?
That one book for me, I would say Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. That one like really sent me over the moon when I was reading. Not only did I find that he was able to suspend himself as an author, but also tap into another version of himself as an author that was interesting and intriguing, and I actually found it very akin to acting. And so that opened my eyes in a lot of ways. That, and it's just a fucking awesome book.
Really?
It's so well written. So, yes.
Can you tell us how many fucking Trevors there's going to be in the movie?
I will say that they do make a big moment of it. So,
it's so good
so
in the
when it
books.
happens, you will definitely know, but I will not go into more than that.
Okay, so I know you mentioned that, I know like Trevor's kind of like the polar opposite of Hardin. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He knows like what he wants to do with his career. He's got like goals for his life.
Yes.
And I mean, you are a co-founder of All Wise Meadery and
That's
like
right.
are a massive, like you obviously do massive stuff with like your
I do
social
the
media.
businesses.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying you have like, you kind of have that relatability where you are a co-founder of this massive business.
Yeah.
Did you pull from that at all when you kind of embraced Trevor?
I mean, I've certainly learned some things here or there about how to manage a business after this last year and a half. And yeah, I think, but you know, even more so than being business oriented, I think Trevor wants to succeed. I think that he has a self-made responsibility to himself and to his family that he really wants to see through to the end. And that has given him great upward mobility, right? And so I think personally, there are aspects of that that I share with Trevor, and in maybe our entrepreneurial interests or our just willingness to drive something to the very end of it. You'll also see that some of Trevor's wit is manifested as comedy in this a little bit too, which is nice in relation to Hardin as well.
Yeah.
Because Trevor's kind of, for every bit of him that's stoic, he's also a little bit loose and humorous.
So I guess speaking on that then, you obviously seem like kind of like a funny guy. So, I mean, and you said you're almost wrapped filming. So did you kind of go like off script for any of the scenes? You don't have to say with what you did.
Yeah, I mean, I like to improv on all
fun.
of the movies that I do, but particular when there's moments to be humorous, and there are, and flirtatious, I think that it facilitates improv. So
Yeah.
I've been using some of that. I'd say a lot of yes ands.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Last question for you. So obviously Tessa's state is very emotional after the events of the first After film, and now going into After We Collided. I know you probably have some like emotional, intense scenes with both like Tessa and Hardin's characters. So what is the downtime for you after Roger yells cut and you go back to, you know, not being Trevor? How do you like kind of process that as an actor?
You know, a lot of the times when a movie and a cast and a crew are good and it's a well-oiled machine, you don't need to do that. It's pretty easy. It comes off the page and in a way that feels alive. And so I've actually found that I didn't need to decompress. I didn't need to do that on this because we've had a pretty well-oiled machine so far.
Yeah.
So for me, there are certainly some scenes that are interesting, and I think the best that we've done is just discuss it off stage and keep joking and talking to each other.
Right.
And we've had fun doing that.
I'm glad that you guys are having a good time on set.
Yeah.
I'm having a good time on set.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Dylan.
Thanks
nice
so
to
much.
talk with you. Well, Anna, I'm a huge fan. I'm so excited to be
Thank
here.
you.
Let's put a timestamp on where we are in filming today. What are you guys filming today, and how far are you into the filming process for After We Collided?
We are 3 weeks and 3 days. Is today Tuesday or Wednesday?
Wednesday.
So 3 days. Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know the day of the week. It's crazy. We only have like 2.5 weeks left.
Yeah.
We filmed a lot of stuff. In the beginning, we filmed, the first week was all just heavy, like hardened emotional things, nightmares, all these like assault scene, just heavy.
Wow.
The first week we were all like, we're so dead on our feet. What's wrong with them? We're like, oh, we filmed all the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And then now we're to the like chill part and then the sexy parts.
Yeah.
So we're in the best part right now.
There's tons of fandom and fan accounts out there. My favorite one are two girls, Karen and Ellen Hessenators
Yes,
on Instagram.
yeah.
I love those girls. And they were wondering, since you co-wrote the script this time around for After We Collided, how was the process in transitioning from the first movie, whereas of course you wrote the novel and the story, but
Yeah.
not necessarily the screenplay, but now you're a co-writer. So talk about that transitioning process for this film.
It was a little difficult, I'm not gonna lie, because a lot of the stuff that we set up in the first film just changed the course of a lot of characters that
Right.
during the process we knew and we were aware of, but we just we couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
And so we spent a lot of time kind of trying to undo some of the things or figure out a way to make them make sense. And sometimes it's hard for me because I have like the fans in my ear, and that's who I need to like protect and like preserve what they love. But then there are times where I have to make a choice that I know they're not gonna like, but they will when they see the film, they're gonna love it. But if I tweeted, hey, I just changed it, like they would totally freak out. But when they see the product, they're going to be so happy, especially the transition. It's just a totally different film. The first one was beautiful and soft, and Joe and Hira's chemistry was
Amazing.
obviously incredible.
Yeah.
And now we just turned up the volume and we have like scene after scene of just drama. It's like the book.
Right, and speaking of the fandom, I mean, like, we live in an interesting world where, like, people literally want daily updates on what's going on, and you guys have been, like, so generous of, like, giving content to people, even though you're only, like, a couple weeks into filming. So I'm wondering what the process is between you and Roger Cumble and because a book and a movie are two different mediums. So something might work well in a book, but not necessarily in a movie, and the other way around. So can you talk about, like, the process of changing anything, like, for when you're doing a movie and basically being in that world of like trying not to upset fans, but also making your story work on screen? Yeah,
let me think of a specific example. I mean, the Zed character, for example, is a like very big change, which was a big change from the first film where it's so funny when the fans are like, the love triangle. I'm like, this isn't a film or a book that has a love triangle. It's always Hardin and Tessa. There's just complications that fuel their story and are motivators for them to like get back together or break up or both.
Right.
And that was a hard choice just because we have a great actor who plays Zed and he is so sweet and everything, but it's the first film, Zed and Tessa didn't speak, and the only
Right.
scenes that they did were cut from the film.
Right.
So it's really hard to take all of these different storylines. And in the books, you have, you know, literally 10 different storylines going at one time. And in a film, you just don't have the time.
Right.
And you don't have the inner thoughts of, like, with Hardin, the kind of struggle of balance, which has been the funnest part. So when I say struggle, it was just complicated, but also like easy because it was fun to do, was to show his demons this time, because in the first one we didn't really have the chance to do that. But there's a balance of showing someone's like volatile behavior and their temper and their aggression and their darkness from their childhood all in one film, and not have him be, you know, look like a serial killer. So it's hard to make him what we thought it was going to be harder than it is. Now that we're filming, we're like, all of these things we were worried about are not, they're all just working themselves out, because everything we filmed, we have such a well-rounded character that I can't imagine anyone like not rooting for him.
Exactly. And it leaves stuff up to like kind of surprise for book readers too in the sequel. Like I'm like dying to see like, you know, what's going to be different, you know, since I've like read all the books and everything.
Yeah, and I don't know, there's no necessarily like new things, but there are twists on other things that
And
are
that
in the
makes it
book.
fun.
Yeah, and it's, you know, the books are, I'm a reader, so books are always better to me.
Yeah.
But I feel like this film is just a separate thing that there, of course, the fans are always in my mind, but there are some times where I'm like, we have to make a great film because the film is going to live longer than all of us, the same as the book.
So I've been dying to ask you this question since I finished After. So when I first finished the book, I was like, oh my God, that's Cruel Intentions. It's like Sebastian and Annette. And then when the news broke that Roger was going to direct, my mind like exploded. I was like, oh my God. So I'm just curious for you, like, and you're a fangirl yourself, like, did you pull any from Cruel Intentions when you were writing After? And then to get Roger on board to direct After We Collided, I mean, like, I just see so many similarities between the two of them. I'm just curious what, like, your perspective was.
Yeah, I mean, the entire storyline obviously comes from Taming the Shrew, and it's different versions of it. So basically all of I love anything with a twist. And with Cruel Intentions, I mean, I saw it when I was so young, but was that romance that you're
in, like,
just
8th grade.
Yeah, I definitely watched it too young, but
Yeah, me too.
I loved it, and it was one of my favorite movies. I followed both of those actors for their whole career. Now we have Selma in our film.
Amazing, yeah.
And I never even thought it was in the realm of possibility to get Roger as the director, and then he was the first one that we met with, and then Jennifer and I were like, well, we don't want to meet with anyone else, hopefully he'll do it.
Yes.
And it sparked something in him that he hasn't felt since then, that he says, he'll probably tell you that, but so yeah, there were tons of, it's all, I don't want to say it's all the same, but it's kind of like Cruel Intentions also has a lot in common with Wuthering Heights and Pride and Prejudice and all of the stories, 50 Shades, Twilight, Vampire Diaries, that I got inspiration from. So I basically took all of those things and like put them in a pot and like stirred it.
Right.
So there's definitely the inspiration. I love it sounds cruel, but but I love the like just the heartbreaking part of like the person that you have opened yourself to completely betrays you in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I love the way the first book ended, how it was just like she gets in the car like with Zed
Thank
and just
you.
goes off. So I mean, obviously like in the first movie, it's rated PG-13. We have an R rating this time around. So were there any scenes that maybe weren't on the deleted scenes that you guys just didn't release that were filmed? Because I know like obviously with the lake scene, it goes in a different direction in your book, and it was like a little bit more tame with the PG-13 rating and everything.
We have a lot of footage that, especially with the intimate scenes.
So did you film like I guess sexier like R-rated stuff?
Yeah.
And then just cut some of it?
Yeah, it was one of those things where for me, I didn't understand the kind of studio system, and I didn't know about the PG-13 rating. And then we were a couple weeks in, and the distributor came, and we were all kind of like, wait, what? What's going on? So we had filmed R, and we brought it back, which in the end, I'm really, even though I know fans want more sex, and we are giving it to them, but I'm really am proud of the intimate scenes, even if they're not as far as the book. They're so beautifully shot, and the connection is just, it's so sexy without even needing to be explicit.
Yeah, because I was about to say, like, I mean, I saw the first movie twice in theaters and like have seen it like multiple times since, and I adored it. But I was just curious if there was any type of like disappointment, because it's your story about like not being able to like have any scenes like, or some scenes come to like the full fruition like they did in the book.
Yeah, and for me, it's more of a broader conversation because I don't believe in censoring sex for 13-year-olds. I just don't.
Yeah.
Because I live on the internet with them and I
Right.
know what they're consuming and the things that they're seeing. And I think it's really a poor decision on like the MPA in general of, you know, we were doing editing. I've said this before, so I feel like they won't come after me, but, and even if they do, I don't care. But when we were doing the cut, we were right on the cusp of PG-13 and they wrote us and said that there were too many orgasm faces on Tessa's face. And I'm like, okay, so of course it's me, and I just do not, I'm like, if something happens, I'm like, actually.
Yeah.
So then I was like, well, wait. So then I pulled clips from the Hunger Games, and I'm like, oh, look at these dead children and their faces. This is PG-13. Like, it's just
Titanic is PG-13.
Yeah, it drives me crazy that these like double standards, and especially if the content is for young people, it's like clearly the people making these choices have no idea what they're actually doing because censoring sex from young girls is the worst possible thing we could do.
Right. I read that the copy of Wuthering Heights and Hardin's Room in the first movie was your personal copy. Is that true?
Yeah, that I
Okay.
have since I was 14.
Oh my gosh, amazing. So was there anything else on set that you put there kind of secretly that was special to you? Or like, is there anything else that or are we going to see that book again in the sequel?
Yes, yes. It's a duplicate of mine. The only reason I won't bring mine again is because it kind of got lost for like a week, and I was totally freaked out because I've had it since I was 14. It's my first one, and it's like damaged, and so I was like, well, this time can we just recreate that? 'Cause I don't want to lose it again.
Right. I see.
But yes.
So like when you were writing the character of Steph, did you always know that she was going to go in that direction?
No, I had no idea. Like
Because
when it was happening,
blown away.
Me too. When it was happening, I was like, wait, what? And then for a second, I had to kind of fact check myself because I'm like, is this going to be completely random? But then when I went back and looked at her interactions with Tessa, they could be totally double-sided.
That and like she never said anything to her. Like I'm like, I feel like a true friend maybe would have. So
Yeah, I know. It's funny when people only watch the film so far and then they start reading and they're like, what did Steph do? I'm like, sorry. Or when people hate Molly, I'm like, Molly is way better than Steph.
I actually like, and I think she like the girl, like the actresses are so good in those roles. And I mean, Molly like is like a favorite of mine, just based on. I mean, because like especially when you get to see her like in the before, like you get to see her past and everything, which is super important. Everyone needs to read that because it's so different. So and then also with Christian Vance. Is that something like again, this is only going to be for book readers, not for TV. Like, is that something that he was always going to be that person
I
to
knew
Hardin?
a little bit, but I didn't know if I was going to actually do it.
Okay.
Like when I was first had him there, he was more of just a reflection on like what Hardin's dad could have been. And then the deeper I got into it, and then when I went back, I was like, wait, I said that he has the same color eyes, and I said Tessa clocks that Smith looks like Hardin. And when I had written that, that wasn't in my head of Vance. And then the more, it just kept going. And then it was literally like the day I wrote the chapter that I was like, oh, we're here. This is.
I think it made like perfect sense.
Yeah,
I was
me too.
like this, and I was like blown away. I was like, oh my god, this like I was like the third book just like keeps giving us stuff that we're just so shocked.
The third one
at.
is my favorite one.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, and it's like the longest too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like reading it like in bed. I'm like it's like heavy. So last question. So I went to the 50 Shades Darker premiere and I noticed that like they invited like a lot of like fan accounts and stuff. Is that something that you guys are like hoping to do possibly? I know it's kind of far out, we don't have a release date yet, but is that something you guys maybe are hoping to try and do for the premiere of
I really hope so. We tried a lot, but we had a complicated situation with our distribution in the US last time, so a lot of the things that we planned on doing or wanted to do just couldn't come to fruition, but this time we're ahead of it more.
There's some passionate fans out there.
Yeah, and it would be crazy not to utilize them. And I was gonna add to the like, are there any Easter eggs in the Vance publishing office? All of the titles, the authors' names are mixes of all the fan accounts, like the big ones, their first names and last names.
Oh my god, that's amazing!
Yeah.
They're gonna be so surprised.
Yeah, so it's gonna like, do you know in the Hunger Games, the last one where they have like the board and it's all like like fan. It's like
Wait, what,
blogger.
in the first
In the
Hunger Games?
last one.
Or no,
Or
in the
not
which
Divergent.
one?
Just kidding.
Oh, oh no, in
and-
Divergent I did know that.
Yeah.
Which I like literally just watched that for the I haven't seen it in a long time. I rewatched it a week ago.
Oh,
But
yes.
that is yeah, like the
Yeah, like the scoreboard thing is like fan names.
Yes,
yeah.
that's right.
And
That's
this
so
time we were like,
amazing.
we need to do something like that.
good for you guys. Like
Thank
to
you.
like appreciate all the fandom.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Anna. This
Thank
was so
you.
much fun. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Here with Roger Cumble, the best director of all time. My favorite movie of all time, Cruel Intentions.
You're very sweet.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
So Roger, let's put a timestamp on where we are in filming right now. How far are you into filming, and what did you film today?
We are 4 hours ago. We hit the halfway mark of filming After We Collided, and today we're filming Tessa's dress and her entrance into the nightclub, and this whole sequence here is like in the book. Tessa goes to Seattle with Vance and Trevor and Kimberly, and it's really kind of a nice fish out of water moment for her.
Right. So when I first finished reading After the book, my immediate thought was like, oh my God, the whole bet, this is so similar to Cruel Intentions. And I
Right.
spoke with Anna about that earlier, and I was just wondering, like, after you read the books, did you see the similarities between Sebastian and Annette and Hardin and Tessa?
I did. I asked her for money, and then she said no. It's a common story theme, and,
Yeah.
and I thought she did it so amazingly well. And I love her writing. I love her book. So I was just
Ecstatic to.
thrilled to jump on board this.
And I know on Instagram you said you haven't seen this much chemistry on set since R&R, since Reese and Ryan. Can you talk about that in specifics?
Well, it's just I saw it with the first film. It was like, and the first film was more poetic and them getting to know each other, and you felt the chemistry when watching that movie. And this is more kind of like an emotional roller coaster. This movie.
Right.
But it was so great that when you jump into something like this, where the characters have been established and the actors, that they get along so
Right.
well on screen and off screen, and the sparks fly.
Right. Well, when you first announced that you were going to be directing this film via Instagram, you said you were excited to work with your friend Selma again. And I'm just
Yes.
curious, I know Jen confirmed on Instagram that you guys are kind of working around her health, but I was curious if you could give us any details about like stuff that you're trying to potentially film with her.
Selma, I love more than life itself.
Yeah.
It's funny, the day I met Anna, I was at the MS event
Right.
honoring Selma
With Sarah,
Geller.
yeah.
So we are doing everything possible to make sure that Selma as Carol remains in this series. And,
Right.
and first and foremost, right now, we want her to get healthy.
Of course.
But we ain't recasted. I'll
yeah.
just say that.
Okay, perfect. I also saw on your Instagram that you were listening to the audiobook of After We Fell, which is the third book in Anna's series.
Yeah.
Is that hinting at
I could
anything
only-
potential?
Anna dangles the carrot. No, I would love to be a part of this whole series. I just love working with Anna Todd. So.
Yeah, well, and I love your message about like this is like the empowerment of women, like you put on
It
your
is,
Instagram
yeah.
and everything. And I love that you're involving Anna and like all of the women involved in the film. Can you talk about what it's like having Anna so involved on set with you?
Makes my life 100 times easier because she created this world and she knows the characters, and Josephine knows the characters incredibly well. She's read all the books. So it just makes it easier when we're doing a scene, like even, we call them Easter eggs, like little things that like only the fans would get. And
Right.
and I'm like, hey, what's an Easter egg? And I could ask Josephine or Hero or Anna, and that's what makes it great. But everything comes from a place of like, Tessa's empowerment.
Right. So we live in a world where fandom is, great and they want, updates every single day, but that can also kind of like hurt sometimes. I know, especially because like we're talking about a book, transferring it to a movie, and sometimes things don't always end up being exactly like the book. So I was talking with Anna about this earlier. So what's the balance of kind of listening to the fans, but also potentially changing things for the movie so that it plays well more on screen?
I think that's a great question. It was one of our challenges when we started just restructuring the latest screenplay. And,
Right.
It's just, you can't do every storyline.
Right.
If we did it as a limited series like Big Little Lies, that would be another thing. But we're a 2-hour movie, so
Yeah.
so some storylines had to go, and we just focused on the A and B storyline, if that makes sense, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously with the events of after the movie, Tessa and Hardin are in a much more like emotional place, especially Tessa. And I'm sure that there's like a lot of emotional scenes, maybe even more so in this time around. You seem to like to have fun on set and keep things light, but how is it when you cut after, you know, Hero and Josephine have filmed such an emotional scene? How do you keep things light on set after that?
I actually find it's a lot, when I'm doing the dramatic scenes, it's a lot easier. I can joke around.
Really?
It's when I do the comedy scenes that I get very intense and serious, because the comedy is all about the timing.
Yeah,
And we're trying to infuse the like Cruel Intentions. We, you know, I always say this movie is like genre defined. Like you can't go to even though they don't have video stores anymore, you don't want to put it in a certain, you know, a drama or a comedy or a romance or it's everything. That's
After
what was
has
so great.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It does. And that's what I was so attracted to this book.
Yeah. No, well, thank you so much for your time. I
Oh,
really
absolutely.
appreciate this, and it was like so much fun to watch you guys
Oh,
film today.
it's a
I'm so
blast
excited
hanging
for the
out with them.
movie.
I am too.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.